Hello everyone. A very warm welcome to each one of you to the monthly knowledge webinar conducted by Kelp along with the Indian Lawyers Association. My name is Sakshi Shetty. I'm a lawyer by profession and I work as a subject matter expert with Kelp, and I'll be moderating this session for you all today. For all those who are here on this platform for the first time, let me quickly brief you about this session. So we at Kelp, along with the Indian Lawyers Association, choose a topic from the PoSH Act or related subject matter. And on the last Thursday of every month, we conduct this session. We also call upon industry specialists as panelists to share their insights on the topic chosen. Speaking of the panelists, we have two extremely talented individuals here with us. The first panelist for the day is Shamila Matka, working as a leader for counseling and mental health wing for the Indian region Brandix Apparel India Private Limited. She has 18 years of work experience, including training and development, employee relations and welfare, law policy interpretation, employee manager mediations, psychological counseling, performance management. Her current role involves planning and delivering various employee wellness initiatives, focusing majorly on mental well-being and empowerment of associates, being a focal point for internal committee on governance, role for an Indian region in terms of complying her as well as complying. Her education qualifications involve being a postgraduate in psychology, IR and PM, BL from Andhra University, certified psychometric test professional from Carlton Advancement Management Institute, USA, and certified in cognitive behavioral therapy from Indian Counseling Services. Thank you so much, Shamila, for being present here today. Our next panelist for the day is Aruna Perumal. She's experienced human resource professional with over 22 plus years of strategic and operational HR leadership in IT, ITES, and financial service sectors. Cherished driving business-aligned HR initiative across talent acquisition, performance management, leadership development, and expatriate management. Known for building high-impact HR teams, fostering organizational growth, and enabling cultural transformation in dynamic, fast-paced environments. She holds a master's in business administration and management and alumni of Indian Institute of Management, IIMA. Thank you, Aruna, for being present here today. Now, speaking of the topic and why this conversation matters, so we have few points to be covered. So speaking of the topic, the black sheep of PoSH, malicious complaints and their impact. We all know that PoSH law was designed to create a safe working space wherein people feel protected. However, while the majority of the cases are genuine and need serious attention, there is also the reality, though rare, of malicious complaints. Today, we'll unpack what these false, frivolous, malicious complaints mean, how to differentiate them from genuine cases, and most importantly, the kind of impact they have, not just on individuals facing such a situation, but also on workplace trust and organizational culture. We'll also reflect on how internal committees, leaders, HRs can navigate this sensitive space with fairness, empathy, and diligence so that both safety and justice are preserved. So not wasting much time, let me quickly delve into the questions. So the first question is to you, Shamila. How prevalent are malicious complaints under the PoSH law, and how do they differ from false or unsubstantiated cases?
So thank you, Shakshi, for the question. If we are talking about malicious complaints, like the research or any case analysis says that we have very rare malicious complaints when compared to the genuine complaints in terms of prevention of sexual harassment at workplace. So the malicious complaints, when they come, it's not that they deliberately want to harm to the other person, but sometimes the intention behind of causing any repetition to the other employee or a colleague at workplace. That's how these malicious complaints generally turn up to be there. We cannot tag them that they are untrue, there's nothing in the essence in the complaint or anything like that. But a false complaint can sometimes be stemmed out of some misunderstandings, misconceptions, or lack of any evidence that is been there. That is how it stems up to the being as a malicious or a false complaint. So the unsubstantiated one, the unsubstantiated case where the evidence is insufficient or anything to prove the complaint, it doesn't mean that it comes under malicious complaint, but it is sometimes that we have to relook into it through the internal committee, making more awareness on how we can really look up with all the resources that is available to us. So that's how I look at the difference of false and unsubstantiated cases. Yeah.
True, Shamal. I completely agree with what you just said. So, moving on to the next question is to you, Aruna. What are the legal repercussions for filing false or malicious complaints?
When we talk about the legal one, maybe I will take one step before, all right? In the corporate time, the very existence of the IC committee, which is both the internal and the external, our experts told that we are no lesser than a law. All right. So when a particular case has been filed or reported to this particular committee, the committee will in the first place put every good effort to go ahead and have that fair evaluation done, investigation done, in other words. All right. And external experts like you or any other external IC members with a very strong legal background advise us in terms of what is the appropriate actions that we will have to go ahead and take it. Every corporate's intent is to have these rightfully addressed with all fairness and not letting it going to an extreme where the individual loses the hope of the committee or the system and they have to go ahead and seek for the legal systems, right? The question where you're asking precisely what are the consequences of it, I think it depends on the weightage of the offense or the weightage of the situation or the scenario that kind of can get reported. So it will be not right if I may have to say A, B, C will happen, and that's where experts like you will guide us and you come into a picture. But all I can say to this group who are listening to us is the internal committee, all right, is no less than any other legal system. So I think we have to give more and more awareness and communication to the associates or the employees, making them aware that this is a body which is there for all fairness to be taking and protecting of the people, and gender agnostic, to be precisely. We didn't want to kind of in a run, okay, we are here only to protect a gender and not care about the B gender. So our body is gender agnostic. And followed by, we want the employees also to be aware that even if they have a pinch of doubt, internal people can take a sides of management or can take a sides of a powerful person against whom it has come. That's where they want to be rest assured that there is an external body who is a legal expert and they are anytime available to be reached on. So that's how I would approach my answer to this particular question. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Aruna. That was really helpful. So moving on to the next question to you, Shamla. How can organizations ensure fair investigations without biasing the system against genuine complainants?
So now the bias part that what we're talking about, the question is more about now the competent internal committees, how the leadership in the organization has really chosen their internal committees and the attitudes that they select the people for these internal committees, that matters a lot. And after once the internal committees are constituted, they have to look into how trained they are regarding this law or the policy, the organization. That it can be more about the sensitivity, the neutrality that they have to follow while handling these issues and all. How can they maintain the confidentiality and even the double confidentiality sometimes when you're handling these issues and all that. So these trainings really play a very major role in capacity building of the internal committees when we partner with some of the organizations like Kelp or any other, which will help us out to build these capacity trainings so that the internal committees are more empowered to look into the issues and all. That's one. Training is one part. Then also making the internal committees more legally equipped, like about the principles of natural justice. This is also a subject matter expert, but all the members in the internal committee may not be legally qualified, but equipping them with certain kind of the legal things that are really required to conduct an inquiry or to see that whether these complaints that are coming up in the initial stages, to filter them, whether they are really an intended or impacted complaint or it is just a malicious complaint. That is again making the internal committees more capacity building has to happen for them. That's one. And then when we talk about no, handling the issues within the time frame, in the time bond, it's very, very important. You know, if the inquiries go for long days or you go beyond the time period or beyond the stipulated periods and all, that also may really make the employees feel that the committee is not properly handling it, or it's not, they may also lose confidence on escalating the issues and all. So the time bond also has to be followed while handling these issues and all. And then assuring that not labeling them as and like not unsubstantiated issues, not labeling them as that. Instead of that, no, bringing them as these are false complaints and malicious complaints. We can also tell that there is no proper evidence to substantiate this allegation, the allegation that has come up and all. So that's how it has to come, and then that's how it has to be equipped with the internal committees to handle such issues. That's what I would like to add.
Thank you, Shamala, for
I
that.
just want to add, Shakti, if it is fine, to Shamla's point.
Yeah.
I think the key to this question is how do you have a right mix of people in your ICC committee, all right? So with us, we are 4+1 5-member team. All right. So when we say 4+1, I represent HR and part of the ICC members for the natural reasons. We have 2 female and 2 male representatives as part of the team. All right, and we have a good mix of both the business and also the non-business, if I may have to say. So I think the identifying of the ICC members becomes a critical, so that we find we have people from all ways of work, and I strongly disagree that the representative should only be from the management. Somewhere, most of the organization approach that people from the management become part of these critical committees. For that matter of fact, it is fine for you to have your junior folks also, after necessary training and hand-holding and guidance, because they will help us to understand their age group. The reason I'm calling about the age group is, as an organization, our average age group is 24, 23, all right? It becomes very critical and sensitive for us to empathize at their age, how are they approaching certain things. So it is good for us to have their population also participative of the IC members, then it becomes more easier for us to navigate a particular situation. I felt it is good to share. Yeah.
Varuna rightly said. Even I wanted to add on to this, while we say that the internal committees, if they're not able to substantiate a case, it's better to end up saying that available evidences were not enough, rather than internal committee members thinking that it's malicious and going on to the extent of moral policing the complainant. So that again is a strict breach of law wherein we can't do such things. Internal committee members also need to understand their jurisdiction and keep out a report around that and not go beyond what is prescribed. So thank you so much, both of you, for summing up that so well.
Yeah.
The next question is to you, Aruna. What are the psychological and career impacts of being falsely accused of harassment?
This is a very interesting aspect of it. Uh, Still, the topic is something which is not transparently and openly discussed across organization. We are in the year 2025, all right? I'm talking about the generations in the age group of 23 and 25. Very less of the times we educate. For me, this education starts from the schools and institutions and then followed by the corporates, all right? We don't teach our people that courage to say, no, this is not fine with me. All right. When people don't start from that point, identifying this is not fine and this is fine for my strength or my appetite, if I may have to go ahead and say it, all right? So once it becomes to the vicinity of the committee, what was happening between 2 individuals is not anymore limited to the 2 individuals, all right? And believe me, Sakshi, how much ever we are saying that it is protected, it is very confidential, I will say this. Every room's tables, chairs has eyes and ears. Forget about human beings, right? So it becomes very challenging for us as both as a HR person and as a body to very carefully handle the integrity of the entire episode, right? And the proceeding that one goes through itself is very stressful, because you have to narrate. At times you have to narrate more number of times, all right, because you sit through those many interactions and discussions and detailing, and it becomes very challenging for us to every time collect the evidence or the reference that imagining this is how it's going to happen. Like you can't. We, end of the day, we are all human beings, and we can only narrate certain things to what that stays to our memory, all right. At version 1, I might say this would have happened. In version 2, I might say no, something else additional would have happened. So when it comes to the kind of stress that one goes through it, and for sure it has an impact on the work and the work environment, because the individual whoever has gone through it starts, would I be wrong, imagining things that is somebody seeing me otherwise just because I went ahead and complained? Do you think they would have known about it? So there are lots of thoughts that they goes through into their mind. But our intention as ICC members is to time and again give them that assurance, that help that is required, so that it doesn't have any kind of an impact at work, and it doesn't bother them, if I'll have to call, their mental wellness or so. Maybe if this is of any help, which I really liked, because we are a global organization. As part of the US processes, when such a incident gets reported, the first thing the process demands is allowing this individual to go on a leave for the investigation period. You don't have to be there at the workplace, all right? You're immediately allowed to get on to the leave. That is keeping the person out of the situation or out of the place. That will help them to kind of recoup or remince what has happened with them. So that's how it gets treated at corporate level, Sakshi. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I think the last part that you mentioned, we also have a name for us known as interim relief that we provide to these people. You know, we send them on leaves over and above the leaves that they're entitled to, so that they can you. And as you said that everybody feels that now there's a complaint against me, or I have made a complaint, people are looking at me, and
Yes.
notions happen. And it's also it becomes difficult for the internal committee members also to explain to an accused that first thing their defense is that they want to harm my reputation. So
Yes.
explaining the process of dignity of a person who has complained to the reputation that might be harmed, which is or not even out there, it's confidential. We are trying our best. It becomes difficult for the internal committee to also navigate through it and explain the process to the person. So I think yes, equipping our internal committee members here also is very important, and it will be helpful.
Just to add that, can I, Sakshi?
Sure, please.
Sir, like sometimes giving the support of counseling, like psychological counseling to them, that's giving a platform of a safe workplace. And once the complainant can vent out, and then we can bring them to the IC process. If that is an additional thing, if the organization looks at it on employee assistance programs or any such kind, then it really helps a lot. That's where.
Thank you, Shamila. Moving on to the next question to you, Shamila. How can organizations balance the need for a strict action against harassment while preventing the misuse of law?
Coming to this, it all depends mostly on the policies that the organizations are bringing up with regard to safe workplaces. One is as mandatory, all of us should have a PoSH internal policy because it's a mandate. That's the requirement of the land law. But other than that, if the organizations really look at into the project, proactive measure, kind of proactive way of seeing it. I just wanted to pick up one of Aruna's previous one that about the generations that are coming up into the workspaces. Like how are your policies really adapted to bring these generations into our workspaces and then really creating a safe workspaces? So the policy has to really look it to in a more proactive way. And if there is any policies, they have to go with the HR help or the lead teams in the organization for the review to add new clauses into it and all, and then and come out with the zero tolerance policies and come out with some alternative mechanisms for escalating the issues. Like all of them need not be a formal mechanisms. Like, they can come and walk into or talk to an internal committee member. It need not be. Some informal mechanisms also can come up where they can really feel safe. Like, coming up with some hotlines where they can really reach out easily. They can be anonymous also. This can be anonymous, and that gives them more confident to express themselves, like how they can reach out, how they can really. So if this is from the organization perspective, like to look at into review the policies, to come up with that, and then again making a lot of campaigning programs on clarifying both the responsibilities of the employees and also about the repercussions of escalating any false complaints. If with any intention, if they're doing it, what will be the legal repercussions of it? Like bringing some campaignings, it can be in any form, that educating them on that. So it can be in any form. That can be one of the things. And also some kind of preliminary assessments that can really help to identify that whether this complaint really comes under to be redressed by an internal committee or a grievance redressal mechanism that is an alternative way in an organization. Such kind of preliminary assessments, which can be done through a HR or with the support of internal committee, will really help them to really look into it. That's what I would like to add here.
Thank you, Shamala. Thank you so much for that. And rightly said, just one session in the entire year to the employees does not really help them understand the aspects of the law. Timely sending them some posters, some style, reading material, some quick bites. It really helps to refresh their memory and the repercussions of everything that goes around in the law. So I think you very rightly said that point. Thank you so much for that. Moving on to the next question to you, Aruna. What are some of the best practices for internal committees in dealing with potentially false complaints?
Again, the ICMMs play a very tough job on that particular one. And like you rightly said, today PoSH has got two sides of it. One, it is a mandatory because of the legal aspects, all right? Irrespective you having practiced or not practiced, wrongdoings or not wrongdoings, the law makes very clearly that such a policy should be there and such a committee should be there. The second part of it is where what we are talking about is civic sense or social behavior, all right? Now, no law can go ahead and discipline an individual. All right. Now, this is absolutely possible by a repeated awareness, both formal and informal, so that we don't have to wait for a particular calendar or a training to happen. That's where that's another thing that I feel a little proud about it is that we are empowered irrespective of the badges that we have as a HR badge or IC members badge. We all associates correct each other or help each other if we find something wrongdoing. Right. Maybe I'll tell a few examples if we will have to say it. Okay. We have groups who are educated and we have senior members not necessarily wearing the hat of the IC one. They have the scenario corrected then and there and not waiting for it to get are you able to hear me?
Yes, we are.
Yeah, sorry. So not waiting for it to further get escalated. So the falsified complaints or malicious complaints can be avoided as in the first place, more examples has to get published or said or discussed. Which do I call it as a false? All right. So when that puts up only, then somebody thinks that all this while I was thinking this is not false and this is something that I can go ahead and pin it on somebody. All right. That awareness of even right accusation or not right accusation is something that we will have to give more and more. And more than anything else, who are we talking all this education for? We are talking of those grown-ups. We are talking of those qualified people. We are talking those people who are in the corporate world. We are talking of those people who acclaim themselves having worked with bigger brands and bigger institutions and having 10 years and 15 years and 20 years of experiences, all right? And it should not be very challenging for us to manage this very fine qualified professionals. But unfortunately, for several factors which is beyond our control, we go through certain things. So primarily, I think it is more to do with, like I said, the social behavior and the civic sense, which has to get strengthened more and more. If you find somebody passing an inappropriate comments, and if we get heard, I think I, as an individual, should get that sensitivity of stopping by and saying, hey, whatever that you said is not right. And how am I empowered to go ahead and say that? Simply because we both are in the same working floor. I don't need any designations. I don't need any title for me to go ahead and say, whatever that you just said is not appropriate, stand corrected. Right. So once we have that kind of an empowerment by each individual, then the whole system will become a lot more easier for us to execute for the real situations and the circumstances. That said, I want to make one last point. Sometimes it's very chill and cold for us to recognize the repeat offenders. It is very, very challenging for us to recognize these repeat offenders, all right? They would have come across corporates after corporates after corporates, right? Unfortunately, today in the system, we don't have for us to go ahead and tag any individual telling he was put out of the job because of this background. As a HR community or even as a corporate community, we don't have that kind of a database, all right? So the offender elsewhere becomes a great guy for a newer employer. So I will request only Sakshi, please work with your systems and see how we can collect these data points and very clearly identify the problem area. Yeah.
Yeah, as you rightly said, we'll have to, do that working there and ensure that we understand the aspects of it and what are false complaints. Like people know that this is what will be considered as false. I think as internal committee members as well, we there are situations wherein we see a particular complaint and we understand that it not be malicious. But when we speak to people, we understand that they also had an option to step back or say something, to stop it, but they did not do it and very conveniently, went ahead with it and showed things that only supports their claim or their complaint. So in such situations, it also becomes difficult. So if you're giving a warning letter to the accused, you cannot be giving the same warning letter to the complainant. That's the borderline, and that has to be taken care of by the internal committee. But I had a situation where the internal committee members were like, no, we have to give a warning letter to this person also. This is not acceptable. We can see that, the luring of everything was going on really well, but after this particular point, only convenient facts were shown to us. We were like, okay, we cannot give a warning letter to the complainant. Of course, we cannot do that. But what else can we do is letter of caution, just sugar-coated words saying that, okay, you also need to be mindful of a little things. You also need to understand boundaries and how to set clear boundaries for yourself. So I think in these ways, the internal committees will have to move their hands here and there to ensure that people know that this is something you also should be careful of. So I think that really helps. So moving on to you, Shamila, for the next question. How can leadership and HR maintain that trust in PoSH mechanism while discouraging the misuse?
Yeah. I think I'll be taking up from your previous one and even Aruna's previous one. This is leadership now, the leadership commitment that has to come up here. No? So when issues like this come up, now the leaders have to look into it. They have to look into, and the voice has to be from a leader with a commitment, telling that zero tolerance is zero tolerance to everyone. It is not that it is being followed through hierarchies or cadres or anything like that, but the voice has to be a committed voice from the leadership. That is what it is. So when we have the repeated issues also, as Aruna was saying, like when we have repeated issues coming up, now the leader should also come up with some kind of thing, raising the red flags to these people, telling that, that when you go out, there can be a code of the conduct certificate may, whatever that is being given can have an impact, just educating them on that and making them understand that this got a very lot of repercussions on the future career of yours, that it will be taken care. So when we give the recommendations also, it's not the punitive measures, but also we can go on the corrective ways of holding the increments or the next promotions. So the leadership should come out with this kind of commitments when they're acting upon the recommendations. So we have cases where when we recommended for certain recommendations, the leadership has gone beyond that also. That says the leadership commitment. They have gone beyond that, and then they said no, we would like to go beyond your recommendation and see that it gets been redressed there, so that we will have a good impact will be more and people will understand that and also creating some mechanisms where you come out with a monthly or a quarterly way, the issues that are coming up in an organization to be discussed in some forums. We do have some forums in the organizations. It can be an HR forum meeting, or where it can be another forum meeting where it talks about more of employee assistance programs and all, where they can really bring out telling that these kind of issues that we handled in the last quarter, and these are the recommendations that are being taken up. Like we giving them examples that all these behaviors are intolerant and we are not accepted at workplace. That is again telling in a very practical way that this is how we implement it. That is also talks about the leadership voice and the leadership commitment that is coming up. And also coming out with some transparency process, like how the inquiry has gone through, what all is been in, and when you have some pressures that are coming up, the leadership backing it up and then saying that we stand for what we committed. The commitment voice has to come up, because these internal committees are the nominated from the leadership. They are nominated from the leadership. So they have to take that step and then take care that these internal committees are really coming up with all the transparency and also giving up. So providing some support mechanisms, as I said already, in an EAP, under the EAP, and some consultants from people like you to come up with some EAP programs, giving them safe spaces, counseling, and making the employees open up when they have issues, not just keeping them till they get repeatedly being victimized and all that. So all this speaks about the leadership commitment, if the leaderships are really committed in the organizations. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Shamila. The next question to you, Aruna. Are there any global examples of how other countries handle false or malicious workplace harassment complaints?
I can talk very briefly for the US because as an organization, we are headquartered in the US, all right? A couple of things is, I'll take India first. PoSH, you need to have your committee. You need to have your annual report submitted. You need to have a designated training done, right? These are some of the mandates. And you need to also declare as part of your annual financial records telling that you have conducted your PoSH or the one. So today the Indian system also connects to a certain extent to the incorporation presence of the entity, all right? So if they find anything repeatedly getting filed, it directly questions the very existence of the entity, right? That's how the Indian system, to whatever that I'm aware of, it's connected. I mean, it's not taken lightly anymore, if I'll have to say that, all right? The second part of the US is they also have a similar obligations, or they also have a similar control points. But what was very nicer to what I observed with them is that there is an annual acknowledgement that gets collected by every individual for the Sexual Protection Act. All right. It's not a one-time activity, and it is not a group of people activity. So it gets acknowledged by every individual on a particular time as part of the system. I think when we do, even though it is I'll put it this way, not every, including all three of us, when we say terms and conditions, I do not know how many of the times we read the terms and conditions, all right? Today, the policy documents is no less than terms and conditions. I'll put it that way. Only when you want to use a policy, then you kind of go line by line or a word by word. which is natural, which is absolutely okay. But the point that I was trying to make is, even though it is a very high level reading, but when somebody writes an acknowledgement or gives an acknowledgement, there is a pause, there is a moment taken by the individual, and that's what they're signing it for. All right. And second part of it is zero tolerance is something which is very well demonstrated in the US laws. There is not much time taken. The action is very immediate. And very less of the times it gets influenced by the power centers, if I may have to say, which happens most of the times on the India context. All right. Maybe I'll give an example of one of my previous employer where the complainant was one of the business heads. All right, the person who gave a complaint, it was so unfortunate, only that person happened to leave the job. The person on whom the complaint was raised continues to be there as part of the system. So the power center plays a major role. How much ever we say IC members are not tied by these, yes, at least we see, I will say, 2 out of 10 cases gets influenced under these. So that's something that I see less of with the US, because the external legal systems are so easily reachable that they don't have wait for the corporate to come and give whatever the fairness. All right, if they don't find any rightful input, they have an immediate helpline for them to go ahead and seek the required advisory or required help. So that's my very brief observation on the US front.
Thank you, Varuna. I think that really helps, getting that insight. So my last question is to you, Shamila. What policies can be implemented to ensure employees feel safe to report genuine complaints while filtering out potential misuses?
So adding again, now when we bring out these policies in the organizations, the definitions that we are including into these policies must be very clear, which are according to the act, it has to be there, and also according to the code of conduct, the standing orders and all. In the organization where I'm working, it's a manufacturing unit. So we also have to adhere some of the code of customer code of conduct is also has to be taken care in some of the organizations, and also like social complaints, some of the social complaints we have to take care of it so that we align with our customer also. So considering all these, the definitions has to be very clearly mentioned in the policy. And also when we are talking about it, what will be the disciplinary framework? How do we come? There will be a disciplinary framework. In our organization, one of the customer code of conduct, we cannot suspend a person without paying them. Without paying them, we cannot suspend. For example, I'm saying, now if you suspend a person with pay, it's not like a punishment. It is not, you cannot, the person can go just for 1 week or 15 days it is. But we have to follow the code of conduct of the customer also. Now the leadership has come out with an alternative, like how we can see that these deductions can happen. Following the law again, how we can see in which part of their salaries or perks or wherever these increments or where we can really deduct this. So that is how the policies has to come up with it, so that it will really help them. So the disciplinary framework has to be very clear when it is coming up with these things. And then when you're talking about these misuse also, the anonymous, as I said, the anonymous platform that the management really creates and also supports it through their commitment, like encouraging them to reach out to this anonymous, and also coming up with some whistleblower policies, like where they can really come up, open up themselves and talk to them, any kind of that. Creating such platforms are really very important to see that really this is not getting misused or not bringing it under the tag of false complaint or something. That is how I look at it.
Thank you, Shamala, for that. As you rightly said, having those amendments in the policies is also important. We have quite a few organizations who did not even want to, add malicious complaints in the PoSH policy, saying that why do we need it? But this is for the people's, safety. We don't even want to bring out malicious complaints. And it was so important to explain that this is a part of the policy. This is the part of the act, and this does happen. It's very rare. We are pretty sure it's rare, but it's also important for employees to know that this cannot be misused in any way. For potential, if there was a consensual relationship, they broke off, great. We get case. So we are not saying it's malicious. We're not just at the very first beginning, we're saying that this is malicious. We're not going to look into it. We'll of course look into it. But what about malicious complaints, false complaints, frivolous complaints? We need to have something to say about that as well, so that people understand that this is for your protection and you cannot even think of misusing it, because we also know that if it is misused, that appropriate recommendations will also be provided in that situation. So I think having good policies and understanding why this is important to be, addressed is also very important. And of course, the management, the leadership, the internal committees together can find a way out of this. So thank you both of you. I think we can open the floor for questions now. So all the participants, if you all have any questions. Yes, Upasna.
Hello, ma'am. How are you?
Hello.
Hello.
We're good.
Am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are audible.
Ma'am, I'm so sorry, but I had to actually, this is slightly longish question that I had, and this is something, somebody I know as well as myself I'm going through. I just wanted to know through your forum with the learned panelist that whether this is the right direction to take or not. So at my workplace, I'm not mentioning what workplace and everything. I'll just keep that off the record. But we have a situation where I and my teammate were part of the team, and there have been certain unwelcome, you know, advances from the manager, right? So not me. I mean, I'm not at the direct this thing, but I have seen it happen, and somebody from another team, a friend of ours, he has been particularly supportive that you should report this and everything, and we had shared this one time before, like a few months before, over basically a casual interaction. So what happened a few days ago is he escalated that, saying, he blew the whistle on the manager who was doing. And during that, my lady colleague, she basically, had to bear the brunt के उसका नाम मेल पे आ गया था कि like this is happening to this lady. He didn't say anything bad, but she had basically mentioned her name directly, that she's getting exploited by the manager. So right now, it so happened that my company, uh, I mean, I got to know from the vicinity that what happened is, the company is saying, कि, since you have reported, so you are basically liable under PoSH. And my lady friend, she was, out of, scared mindset, or I'm not sure what happened exactly. She also mailed the HR saying, कि, since our friend he had mentioned, so I want all my name taken off all the email and everything. But this is a real thing which is happening, which I was even going to, basically complain if it gets aggravated. So this friend of ours and now the company, they are in a tussle sort of situation, whether merely mentioning somebody's name over mail, like with the sexual undertones that this kind of situation is happening. Is that something which comes under PoSH, or in this situation you must understand what is the kind of power you know dynamics here. So is it a good time for me to report the manager, or even substantiate, yes, this thing is actually happening? Or I'm a little confused here. If you can tell me what is the right way to do it. I have been constantly under stress about this. I hope you got my concern here.
Sure, Upasana. So, Aruna, Shamla, who amongst you would want to take up
I'll
this?
start with, I'll request Shamla to also kind of. Okay. Upasana, certain things has to come very candid and clear. All right. I understand you're talking for your woman friend. All right. PoSH is very candidly calling it out that there has to be a written complaint or an oral complaint to the ICC members where the complaint can be taken on behalf. All right. So please keep
Right.
this in
So we
mind.
haven't
Yeah.
asked, we never asked that friend of ours to go on our behalf. Any which way we would have, like, depending on the scenario around it. And we are directly reporting to the person who's doing this, right? So, I mean, we also, I mean, being women there, even that takes a bit of courage as well as some prior thinking on our part, right? But what he did was, I mean, I'm closer to him compared to my colleague, and we are all friends there. So since he took it up head on, so that is being looked at. Okay, he said something where he mentioned all these undertones and this girl, nothing malicious per se, but it's not my name which is mentioned, na, but I'm going through the same scenario. So what to expect out of the situation, and the company is taking an entirely different direction. Since my friend there, like, who sent the email, he mentioned a mail, so he's liable under PoSH. So I want to be in a scenario where I'm able to flag my manager instead, ki he's doing these things, right? So,
Okay.
like,
One
what
step at a time,
is
Upasana.
I
All right,
mean,
one step at a
it's
time.
what is the practicality of this thing?
Yeah, hear me out. One step at a time, like I said. I think as an individual, we are going through something which is not acceptable. First place, all right? If you're in a place to go ahead and say to the other person telling, please, whatever that you're doing, it's making me uncomfortable. Can you please stop? All right, the conversation starts from there. You, after putting that, when I say you, your team members or whosoever, even after putting a good amount of an effort, if somebody is not standing corrected, that is where we go ahead and seek help of the ICC members, telling that this person is inappropriately behaving or misbehaving with me. All right. The second of the thing that this is where I kind of we say in the corporate world, we can't take group complaints. You know what I'm saying? This person felt or
Right.
that person felt. The individual will have to speak for himself or herself. And which is why all 40 minutes, we all three ladies were telling that our good effort is to protect the interest of the, if I may have to call, victim, or if I may have to call the person who has gone through unpleasant things. All right. Now you have to trust us as in a system. All right. While I'm hearing you that because it's our direct manager whom I'm repeating, there is a fear of job, there is a fear of me continuing to be part of the working environment. There is a fear because everybody will get to know such a thing has happened, and still it is a kind of a cliche thing that will people think bad about me. Keeping all this aside, Upasana, my recommendations goes 3 points, straight 3 points. One, if I feel this person is not behaving well with me as an individual, whether it is you, but somebody else, I will go ahead and say, hey, Mr. X, the way you're behaving is not giving me any kind of uncomfortable to be at the workplace. Can you stand corrected? First one. Even after repeated, if that is not there, Upasana or Aruna can directly go ahead and give a written complaint to the PoSH telling that this person has been behaving. And if it is a very long period of behavior, the IC will first place question you, why did you not bring it then? Why are you bringing it now? That's a natural question for us to go ahead and ask or a question. Because what is instigating the whole situation or a scenario? For the,
No,
yeah.
that is entirely fine, madam. But my concern here right now is I have to balance three things. One is the ongoing complaint, which I'm supposed to put up. But right now, since my female colleague already went ahead and complained against somebody who was, basically doing things in our interest, even though it was not, we didn't ask him to do it, right? So, the entire HR team or the right people, the the management, they already know that such a thing is happening. So but right now they have initiated action against which I feel is not the right person to go ahead with. So what remedies do I have available right now?
Can
The
I?
proceeding is work in progress. You have to wait and watch. Maybe I'll allow Shamla to take it, or Sakshi to take it from there. Yeah.
Like Upashna, wanted to talk about one is a bystander role, which can be if it is there in in your organization policy, that it is not only the person who is victimized with such inappropriate behaviors, but who have also seen it have the privilege or have the right to go and escalate it. So on
No,
being
there is no bystander rule, ma'am. I checked the handbook and everything.
no,
There is
that's what,
nothing
yeah,
for bystander. Yeah.
It's not there, but I say that you can go on be saying that as a bystander, I can really come up and say that these are the behaviors that we are really getting impacted to us also. So it is not always the victim has to raise a voice, but a bystander who is also been impacted by this on that role, you can escalate a complaint. That is one. The other person who is sending a mail, that X person, it is totally coming under the retaliation part. Retaliation is totally a disciplinary action that can go directly. That doesn't need any sexual harassment. They need not be categorized under a tag like it is a sexual harassment. Retaliation is completely a disciplinary part, which is already there in the standing orders and the
What
code
do
of.
you mean, ma'am? Can you explain that a little more, the retaliation? Because the way I understand, he
Yeah.
complained it. I mean, he made a complaint against somebody which just involved, let's say, my and my colleague's name there. He had just mentioned that.
That's what.
And yeah, so will that count as retaliatory?
Yes. Yes, it's one of,
Retaliation to
yes,
what
yeah, it's
exactly?
one of the defense mechanism that he has picked it up, which you can categorize under retaliation. That is what I'm telling you. He is retaliating it and it is not accepted. That is why the complaint can be escalated to the internal committee and the internal committee can be taken it from there. That's what I would
But
like.
retaliation to what, ma'am, exactly? Like,
I'm sorry,
I mean,
Upasna, just a second, Upasna. So actually, I would, also let others to have questions. I understand your concern, Upasna. You may feel free to, DM us with your, queries, and we'll be
Got
able to
it.
see
Yeah.
that.
sure.
Thank you. And thank you, Shamala and Aruna as well. Anyone else, having any questions revolving around the subject that we discussed today? Anyone?
So, no questions. I just want to thank all of you for this conversation, and especially the way Sakshi, you started putting questions, and then how the panelists, both Aruna and Shamla, addressed those. I think I really want to thank all of you for your time and the examples that you gave. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Seema. Thank you so much.
Hi. I'd like to ask if anybody has any statistics on how many cases that have been registered as malicious cases since 2013. I think I sent that question in writing.
Anyone, Shamila, Aruna, want to take this up?
No. I did want to take certain facts, but no, it is not there on top of my mind. I'm sorry.
So honestly, I don't think we would have certain statistics because these are confidential, conversations and cases that happen within the organization. So I don't think there would be correct numbers that these were malicious or these were not malicious. I don't think any organization, apart from their annual report specifically to the government department, would ever express these, number of cases or what were malicious, what were genuine, what did we do, and who were involved out in the, public. But as external member, and being a part of this area PoSH, I could say that if you ask 10 external members and each of them have handled like 10 cases as well, or 100 cases for that matter, they would say out of those 100 cases, 2 to 3 are malicious in nature. Some might not be entirely malicious, but there is some malicious intent that we can pick up. So we don't have exact numbers, but yes, speaking to individual external members or the people who are actually corely related to this working might be able to tell you that yes, few are malicious, but again, the statistics stands extremely it's not like okay 10 genuine or 10 malicious. It's the numbers there do not really match.
Yeah, thanks. But that is exactly why I put the question, because I would also say in my work, I have found about 2 cases in all these years. But I wanted to know if others are facing similar, because when you ask in a training program, how many of you think that these will be false cases or there will be malicious cases, you have a large number of hands that go up. So I just wanted to know what would be your experience, and I was hoping to get some statistics on this, because even false complaints need to be reported in your report, right? So
Yes.
anyway, thanks a lot.
Just wanted to add there, I think there is a Supreme Court order that by October 14, 2025, the she-box, we have to get registered across. So maybe with that data, next year we may have dashboards keep flashing up with these datas and all. That's, I just think about it. Like when you start, the organization start registering for these she-box, and then started giving their SPOC and all, and then reporting the complaints that come in an organization and all, then of course we may have data, not regarding malicious complaints, but the complaints that are coming up in the organizations regarding this sexual harassment and all.
Thank you,
Yeah,
ma'am. Thank you.
And just a point in terms of, I think more than a statistics, how much of them were malicious. Many of the times there is a thin line between work harassment to the sexual harassment, right? Where the work harassment turns out to be a sexualist when there is not a clear understanding. Maybe I'll give an example that if a team member is not completing a task at the given time and female member not completing the task on time, if the male manager is repeatedly kind of following it up and asking for the status and checking on you very often, for not doing a particular task, the female member can get a little edgy and portray the manager telling that no, he is very stalking of me and he's very nagging of me, and this is what I find it very uncomfortable. Now if you see, there are shades of kind of an sexual connotation that a female member can go ahead and give, and that can turn out to be malicious. But when we deep dive into it, the work, I would not say harassment, but in terms of the work micromanagement, when it bothers our member, is where it kind of takes shapes of it. I'll put it that way.
Thank you.
So is there, since Shamla said that, by October we need to start registering, I am given to understand that there is no last date yet, which is being, published by the government to complete the process. Or is it that, as good citizens, corporate citizens, we are encouraged to register on the SHE portal,
Yes.
but the date is not yet out, right? The final date.
Yes, yes.
Thank
Can
you.
I add something to this? Yeah, Sakshi, can I add something?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, I'd like to talk about 2 things. One is, as far as registration on the SHE-box portal, it is mandatory to do it by all organizations. A lot of our clients have received mails saying that please do it quickly. So one has to go to the SHE-box portal and choose private head office, go there, click read what is there, and then go and register. That is one. In case you need a user manual, there is also a user manual available on the SHE-box portal. So that is required to be done. Once you register on that, it will show, okay, you have successfully registered. The person who registers on that, who is a nodal officer, it ideally should not be an IC member, because once the details are received, the login ID password is received, the person will have to log in and put the details of the IC members. So that is one. That's the reason why you don't want the email ID to clash. That's why a nodal officer needs to be somebody else from other than the IC member. So once this is done and you log in to the system, to the portal, you have to put all the details of the IC members. Now, this particular, SHE-box portal also has a tab for trainings, which means what the ministry is trying to do is As time goes along, all the trainings and details and pictures relating to the training will have to be uploaded on the portal. That is one. Secondly, it also has a tab for annual reports. So what probably they are trying to do is that annual reports need to be filed via the SheBox portal. So that way there will be a centralization. Otherwise, what is happening is across the country, there are so many district officers, all that needs to be gathered. This becomes a centralized way in which things get done. So this is as far as the SheBox portal is concerned. It is advisable, do it ASAP. Do not keep waiting, because people have received circulars in the last week itself. A lot of companies have received circulars. So that is as far as your SheBox portal is concerned. As far as malicious complaints are concerned, so once an IC conducts an inquiry, after the inquiry is over, there are various outcomes. One, either the offense is proved, in which case IC will decide on the punishment, which is a recommendation, or the offense is not proved, which is no action is to be taken. Sometimes the IC is unable to decide whether the offense is proved or not proved due to lack of evidence, which is then IC will term it as inconclusive. There are times that IC will come to a conclusion that the offense, the complaint is false, in which case, before proceeding further, IC will give the complainant an opportunity to be heard, which is in accordance with principles of natural justice, before taking any action. The actions that need to be taken would be any of those which are listed in the disciplinary action: written apology, warning, reprimand, loss of promotion, loss of pay hike, termination from service, counseling, community service. So all these punishments are applicable to the complainant in case she files a false complaint, or to a witness who may have given false evidence or produced any forged documents. So that is the clarity as far as this is concerned. I wanted somebody who can throw more light, give some case studies on inconclusive. I don't need to know, because it can be a he said, she said kind of a scenario, or somewhere where two people are traveling in a car and something happens, there's no other evidence there. I wanted somebody to throw clarity on the process that is to be followed once it is, IC is, of the opinion that the complaint would be false. So anyone can throw light on it, that will help.
Anyone who wants to take it up?
Just a time check. We are at 5. Are we good?
I think we can just take this last question and then we can close the session.
Hello, Sakshi.
Yes.
Yeah, this is Advocate Seema Sharma from Pune. Yeah, we were talking about the malicious complaint. So I would like to share my experience about one classic malicious complaint which the HR person herself has done for one of my client organization. And there was a massive misadvantage taken by her being in that position. So in that case, because there was some lapses at the client's end, like there was a kind of a non-compliance of PoSH from client's end. So after that, they have appointed me. Of course, they had faced that problem, and then later they appointed me as an EC. So in that case, we as an organization, we had to file a complaint to the police also as well, because she was taking an advantage of that situation, and she was demanding money also, because she filed a false complaint and later she wanted some kind of a money, and kind of a bargaining was taking place. So this kind of situation may arise in some point of time. So I feel that proper compliance of PoSH is very, very important, so that HR person, like this was a very unique case where HR person herself has taken the disadvantage of the situation, So in that case, we complained to the police, and police intervened in that case. They called that HR manager. They asked about what is your issue, and then later, with the kind of a counseling, she kind of kneel down, and then she took her complaint back. In such cases, this kind of measure we can take the outside help also.
Thank you, Seema, for that. And Dr. Sandhya, just answering your question, I've had an experience wherein there was a proved malicious complaint. Now, when I say proved, it's very important to be able to prove that, yes, this was malicious. We have evidences and we have, witnesses. ensure, testifying whatever the complainant or the respondent has said. And that particular organization was very sure that we don't want this person anymore in the organization. And they very subtly separated that person from the organization, asking them to resign and leave because it was very well proved that it's malicious. So it depends on the internal committee how they want to take an appropriate action for that particular situation or that particular case, ensuring that they do not take some extreme legal step that could otherwise turn around on the organization if the case goes to an appeal, and not even something so subtle that the person feels that I've done nothing wrong. So I think it's completely on the internal committee how they want to take an appropriate action and how confident they are about their employer, their leaders supporting them in that particular decision and implementing the recommendation provided by them. So I think it's majorly on the organization and the internal committee. So with that,
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So with that, I would like to, close this session. Thank you, Shamila, Aruna, for such insights over the subject, over the topic. It was really delightful having this conversation with you all. It really helped me. It really helped others as well, I'm pretty sure. So thank you so much, and looking forward for more such collaborations with you all. Thank you all the participants as well to, taking out time and attending the session, asking such questions. Anyone else who has any questions, you all may please DM us and we'll get back to you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aruna. Thank you, Shakshi.
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
Sandhya. Thank you.